Trouble in the platinum industry to be assessed and dozens killed in an Afghan province. Good morning. A task force will be set up to look into trouble in the platinum industry after 34 people were killed near the Lonmin mine in Marikana. Mineral Resources Minister Susan Shabangu says the team will look into labour issues and will consist of representatives from industry, unions, government and traditional leadership. On Thursday, police opened fire on striking workers, some of them armed, while trying to disperse them after a week of violent protests. The police ministry says 78 others were injured and 259 arrested. Protesters wanted higher wages. Shabangu has since held talks with the National Union of Mine Workers, Solidarity Lonmin, the Chamber of Mines and the Ministries of Labour and Mines to discuss the shooting. Nobel Literature Prize winner Nadine Gordimer has criticized police for their lack of control during the Marikana shootings, which claimed 34 lives. She says she could never imagine that what she termed as police violence could ever happen in the new South Africa. Police say they acted in self-defense against armed protesters. Gordimer says police lack crowd control skills despite recurring protests against poor living conditions across the country. In other news, the Eastern Cape government and the European Union have launched a 170 million rand project to fast-track rural development in the province. Eastern Cape MEC for Rural Development Zoleka Kapa says there is hope for people living in appalling conditions in rural areas.
We are in a good position to partner with private sector so that we can take shortcuts, like if you don't have water, we give you a borehole, or we buy a JoJo tank so that you can harvest water. Meanwhile, the actual program is coming.
KwaZulu-Natal Premier Zweli Mkhize has rejected the DA's call for him to provide answers as to why charges against two provincial ANC officials implicated in a fraud case were dropped. Mkhize says the DA is misleading the public into believing the provincial government had a hand in the case against Provincial Legislature Speaker Peggy Nkonyeni and Economic Development MEC Mike Mabuyakulu. The NPA announced on Friday that charges had been withdrawn against 6 people, including the 2 officials. The group had been implicated in the Intaka case. The 6 were linked to the sale of water purification plants to the KwaZulu-Natal Health Department, allegedly at inflated prices. Further afield, NATO officials in Afghanistan say more than 24 suspected Taliban militants have been killed in an airstrike in Kunar province. The Taliban also acknowledged the attack. From Kabul, the BBC's Ali Makbul has more.
NATO's confirmed it launched the air raid in Kunar province in northeastern Afghanistan, saying more than 24 militants were killed in the attack and saying there was assistance from Afghan security forces. The Taliban, though, say they lost 13 fighters, but did acknowledge that others had sustained injuries. There are differing reports as to why a large number of militants had gathered together before they were attacked. Some locals say they were due to carry out public executions. Others that the Taliban were preparing to attack and attempt to take control of the area.
And finally, back home, 4 of the Big 5 are settling well in the Dunukeng Game Reserve near Hammanskraal, north of Pretoria. The game reserve has lions, elephants, rhinos and leopards, with the remaining buffalo introduction to follow as soon as possible. It's been a long road to the opening, with the initial planning having started in 2006. Last year, Gauteng Premier Nomvula Mokonyane officially opened the game reserve. Dr. Michael Grant from Wits University says the reserve is one of the best in South Africa.
It's a spectacular place. It's by far one of the most unique venues in Gauteng, and it provides an experience that you're unable to get anywhere else. It's the Bushveld, it's South African, it's a beautiful venue, and it's amazing staff here, so it was a no-brainer. It was a perfect choice.